Long distance relationships are extremely difficult. They are a roller coaster ride. Hey YouTube, welcome to my tube. So in today's video, we're going to be doing this new thing on my channel called Sessions with M. And it's basically going to be like personal topics, getting to know each other, and even some not personal topics. So I really wouldn't know where to like label that. But like story times and things like that I want to do with you guys. And I thought it would be nice and I thought it was cute, like those Sessions with M, especially so fitting that I'm a psychology major, so like therapy sessions, but not really. And so, like I was saying, they're basically gonna be like random topics, like this one, long distance. I want to do grad school, moving to a different state. I want to try and do moving to a different country. So Monica, if you're watching this, we're gonna talk about that, girl, because my best friend Monica moved to a different country, so I would love to get like the topic on that, and maybe I'll do like a versus moving from a state to a country. I don't know, we'll see where that goes when I get to that video, but yes, things like that. And I also moved some of my older videos that fall under story times 2 under Sessions with M already, and it's under a playlist, so if you go check that out, you'll see all my other playlists as well as the Sessions with M playlist that have the paranormal activity story times and the I got high at Grad Bash by accident story time. And I think that's all that's in there, but I'm not sure. But anyways, this is the first official Sessions with M technically, so yay. So being the first one, obviously I had to go with a topic that can be quite controversial. You know, everybody has their opinions on long distance relationships, so I thought, perfect, let's do that. So let's hop right into it so you can get this chat going. I do want to preface by saying that not every relationship is the same, and that is okay. And so with that, I mean, what works for my relationship might not work for your relationship, and what works for you might not work for me and or them, or vice versa. You know, so I want to start there. I also want to say long distance relationships are extremely difficult. They are a roller coaster ride, but if your relationship can sustain itself, oh my God, if your relationship can get through a long distance relationship or long distance moment, then it can pretty much hold itself up through anything, in my opinion, because long distance is very hard, I repeat. So since I was already mentioning opinions, I was very much one of those people that was like, I'm never gonna get in a long distance relationship, like it's not for me. And I used to always say the saying in Spanish, relación de lejos, relación de pendejos. And so I guess I am una pendeja because now I've been in a long distance relationship for a year, and it's been a roller coaster ride, needless to say, or to say the least. But like I mentioned, I would not trade my relationship for anything because it made the relationship so much stronger. And the fact that me and my boyfriend even started out that way, we started long distance even when we were dating. And then, you know, once he asked me to be his girlfriend and all that, we were still long distance. So it was definitely something different for the both of us because neither one of us had done it. So if you are planning on or you're already in a long distance relationship, you know, just mentally prepare for it because it's not as easy as it sounds. And yeah, you know, you try to be positive and like optimistic when you're getting into it and you're like, oh, it's gonna work out and everything else. But the reality is that one, not all long distance relationship works, and I'm not saying that to psych you out if you're getting ready to go into one. I'm saying it so that you mentally prepare yourself, as in it's gonna be a lot of work for you and your partner, and if you are both willing to do it, then it will be the most amazing thing. And if not, then you know, it's kind of up to one of you to decide, you know, it's not gonna work out or anything like that. As crappy as it is, you know, you kind of got to do what's best for you, and long distance relationships are really so the first thing that I want to mention that obviously is important in all relationships, but especially in long distance relationship, and I think it needs an extra level of it, is trust. Trust in a long distance relationship is almost crucial because you're not with someone every day and you're not with them, you know, on the weekends, or you don't get to see them as often as you'd like to. Long distance is something that will either make your relationship or break it. And it really does start with trust. In a long distance relationship, you're almost forced to trust your partner. And by that, I mean, when you get to be with someone every day, or you live in the same city with them and you get to hang out with them and see them and all that, you almost unconsciously, like when you're with them, if they're on their phone, you look over and you're like, oh, that's cool. Or you look at what they're doing and then you go back to your phone. And I don't mean that in a toxic way. Everyone does that unconsciously. Like if I pick up my phone and I'm with my friend's gonna look over and be like, oh, what is she doing? But it's not in a toxic way as we define it now, but more like, oh, I just want to see, like, you're almost being nosy, but not intentionally. And again, everyone does it unconsciously, so don't feel bad about it. But you don't have that when you're in a long distance relationship. Or like, I know when you go out with your partner that you get to be with them, you get to see how they are when they're in public and how they act at restaurants, at club, at the bars, all these things. But again, you don't have that when you're far. And also, this is not stemming from a toxic thought or toxic ideas either, by the way. Again, like I said, these are a lot of unconscious things that we do all the time in relationships, except because they're seen as normal, we don't necessarily think about them too much. That was very psychological. I'm sorry. I just got out of class like not too long ago, so I'm still like processing in that way. But it's the truth, and we do things a lot unconsciously, and that's just one of those things. But with having that level of trust, you also have to have in mind reassurance. Because not all days are good days. Not all days are happy days. You're gonna have your fights, you're gonna have your arguments, and you don't necessarily have each other there physically to be like, oh, let me give you a hug, we just had an argument. Let me give you a kiss. We had like a tough conversation. None of that is really available in a long distance relationship until weeks, months, sometimes even years in the future. So you don't have that, and trust is part of having that reassurance. Because again, if you're having an argument, you need to trust that your partner is still in love with you after, and you're having just a rough moment, a rough patch. So I don't necessarily mean just trust in, oh, you're not cheating on me type of trust. I also mean just trust in the love, in the happiness, in the whole relationship, because it's important to have that type of feeling in a long distance in general, but especially in a long distance relationship, because again, you don't get to see your partner on the weekends or every 2 weeks or anything like that. It sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to see your partner in a few weeks. If not, it takes months. If not, it's sometimes even years to see them. And that can be very hard on trusting the relationship if you're not reassuring each other, or even just blindly trusting each other. Like I was mentioning, it's gonna make it hard for the relationship to stand strong. Attachment styles are just important because it helps the relationship become stronger, because you know how each person acts in a relationship. And by that I mean, if the person doesn't text you within 5 minutes, are you gonna be anxious? Are you gonna wonder like, what are they doing? Why are they not texting me? And all of that. And that goes in with trust also, which is why I explained you should also try and see like your attachment style. And again, like, it's not for everybody. Some people, like, they don't even think about attachment styles and they just automatically are secure in their relationship, and that's perfect. Great for you. Let me know how you do that, because some people aren't like that. Some people are anxious, some people are avoidant, and like XYZ. As the goal is always to be a secure attachment style. I don't mind to keep talking about attachment styles because that's very psych of me, and I'm trying to move away from that. But again, if you want to look into it, it's definitely worth looking into for the sake of your relationship, because you learn how your partner is and you learn how you react. and it's like reactive responses and all of that. So definitely worth looking into. But I mention it because it does go in with how you trust someone, and you know, that's important too. So with communication, it's obviously important because it's the base of your relationship in a long distance. You don't necessarily have the proximity that you'd like to see how the person's acting or how the person's mood is or anything like that. And you have to rely on communication, not just for that, but also it's really the basis. Like, you don't see each other, so all you really have is being able to talk to each other. And thankfully, there are like many ways, but obviously the top three are text, normal call, and FaceTime, which are really like, all three of them are useful in a long distance relationship, because if I can't FaceTime you because I'm out, then I'm going to call you regularly, and if I can't do either call, then I'm obviously going to be texting you, which is also a topic of discussion, because I've seen people say, you know, I don't want to text my partner all day when I'm in a long distance because I don't want them to get bored, or I don't want there to be nothing to talk about when we get on the phone later. But I've also seen people say, oh, I want to text my partner all day, even if it's to have basic conversation, because, you know, I'd rather be talking to you like that than not talking to you at all. And either one is fine. It really just depends, again, what works for you and what works for your relationship. For me personally and my relationship, what works is texting all day, basic conversation, kind of like what I have with my best friends, and he is my best friend, so I just talk to him normal. And then if I want to really have like a good conversation, then we can get on the phone later at night or throughout the day, or if I have something to tell you during the day, I can tell you then too. However, even with all this communication, it is important to remember that there will be days that either one of you might not want to talk because you're either not in the mood or you really just don't want to talk with anyone. Those days are normal, and it's common to have. Like, I just want to be in my bed. I don't really feel like talking to someone physically, but I don't mind texting you. But again, these are things that you have to communicate because the other person cannot read your mind. You have to be willing and able to say, look, I'm not having the best day. Can we just text today? I'll, like, if I'm feeling better, I'll call you later. If not, like, you know, I'll call you tomorrow in the morning, or I'll call you tomorrow at some point. Something around those lines where the person feels and understands, like, okay, like, you know, I want to be there for them, and I would love to talk with them about whatever is bothering them or whatever it is that they're not having a good day. But I also understand that I should give them their space, and it's okay to text. Now, aside from modes of communication like text, FaceTime, and call, you obviously have to be willing to communicate everything, really. How you're feeling, how your day went, things you have planned, thoughts you've had, like, look, I thought about this, or like, I had this concern because you said this, or maybe you said this and it bothered me, or and things like that. Like, you need to be willing to have a conversation when the conversation is needed. And this is something that my boyfriend helped me learn, actually. Not everything needs a conversation. When you're long distance, a lot of the time and even not long distance, but it's a lot easier to overthink when you're in a long distance, because again, you don't have that proximity, and the distance plays into a lot of what happens for you. So that alone, you have to keep in mind, like, not everything is worth talking about, and not everything needs a conversation. Like, sometimes it is okay to think about something and just analyze it with yourself and by yourself, maybe journal or something, but you don't necessarily need to have a conversation with your significant other. I don't necessarily mean like you don't have to have the conversation, but I mean more so like, think twice about the conversation before you have it. And I say that because maybe the conversation that you were about to have, or you want to have, does not need the conversation that you think it needs. And you might just want to hear things because, you know, so unconsciously we do that too, and subconsciously we just want to hear sometimes certain things. And that also sets a false expectation on what your partner is going to say, when in reality that might not be what they say, and you end up either getting your feelings hurt, or you're like, damn, like, you know, that's not how the conversation, like, I had planned it in my mind. and things like that. And I think I'm okay to say that because that has happened to me where I'm like, you expect things from your partner, and that's why you form certain conversations when in reality you already know them, and you know inside your mind you know how the things are in terms of the conversations that you want to have. So just think twice. It's almost like that saying that's like, if it's not gonna bother you in a few days or in a few hours, don't bring it up, or something like that. That's the saying goes. The same applies for this. Like if it's not gonna bother you in a few hours or in a few days, and kind of not, don't let it go. You can write about it, or you can talk to your friends about it, or talk to yourself, or really whatever. But if it's not necessarily super 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 important, like it's gonna bother you to your core, then you know some things are okay not to talk about with your partner. And again, I don't say that in a toxic way or in a I'm hiding things type of way. I mean that as in, when you overthink, a lot of the times the conversations that you want to have from the overthinking are not as important as they seem in the moment because of what's going on in your head. My third point is travel to each other if and when you can. And you know, not just to each other, but if you want to meet up someplace and have like a little vacation, that's cute too. You know, you could do that and that works out. The point is seeing each other, because it makes getting through the long distance a whole lot easier. So for example, right now I've been in New York for about a month or so because I have school, and so I'm here for months on end until the semester ends, and then I get to go back home. But sometimes when I do go home, my boyfriend isn't home because his job requires him to travel. So we have that little bit of added distance in our relationship. But my point is that when he is there, I try to be there. And, you know, for him, it's a little bit hard to try to be there because his job requires him to be out of the country or out of the state. But when we do get the chance to see each other when I'm far and he's far, we do it. So one of the main examples that I can give for that was right now over the winter break that I was in Miami. He had to go back to work and he was in Cincinnati. So I took a weekend and I went to see him for the weekend in Cincinnati where he works. And that was kind of like a little vacation. Like, yeah, he was working while there. And, you know, there were times that I didn't get to see him even when I was there. But he would come back and we would see each other and hang out and go to dinner. And the point is that we got to see each other within the break, instead of me being in Miami for the whole 2 months that I have winter break and he's, you know, all over the world traveling. And I say if you can because obviously traveling requires money and it's gotten so expensive. So if you can afford it and if you can do it, try to do it as often or as much as you can, because it does make it easier. Like even just seeing them for a weekend, it's like, okay, I saw them, I got to see them, I got to hug them, I got to kiss them, like I got to hold them. You know, I just being able to be physically with your partner is so much better that even for just a small amount of time than it is not seeing them at all for months. Which leads me to my next point, which is basically the negatives on long distance, which is really like the actual distance and being far, but also when you do get to see each other, leaving is beyond difficult. It is the absolute worst feeling because you know how long it's going to be until you get to be with each other and see each other again, and it's the most heartbreaking feeling there is. But my advice for that is to find the thing that's motivating you and find the reason to why you're doing long distance. And by that I mean me, for example. When I came back the first time that we had already started dating and I was with him for like 4 months for summer and I had to leave to come back for school in the semester, I was so sad. Like the first 2 days, all I wanted to do was cry and be in bed, and I almost had to force myself to get out of bed. And I reminded myself, okay, we're doing this so that when I'm done with my master's and when I'm done with school, we could go back to being with each other and seeing each other and hanging out and all of that whenever we get the chance, or at least a whole lot more than we are now. But I have to finish school in order to do that. And that was my motivation to, you know, be okay and get out of my sadness, because that's a real important point. Like, you cannot stay in the sadness as much as you'd like to, and as much as it feels better to sit in bed and just binge and watch your show and cry and be on the phone with them and whatever else, and it feels great because at least you get to be sad. You have to remember why you're in the position that you're in and why your relationship is, going through a long distance moment. Now, if it's a more of, I fell in love with someone that's from another state, another country, then you have to find the motivation to be like, okay, like, life decided this for me and for us, so I have to be okay with it. But you also have to find another motivation, things to do, things to distract yourself, go to the gym, do a hobby, I don't know, read books. There are a million things that you could find to do to distract yourself from feeling not lonely, but sad that you don't get to be with your partner. And it makes it so much worse being sad and seeing all these people in their relationships and getting to hang out with their partner. And like, you see couples in the street and they're kissing and hugging and holding hands, and you're like, dang, like, I don't get to do that right now, but I get to do that when I see them, and I get to do that when I am with them. And my point was, like, that makes it so much harder, but that's why you have to find a distraction and almost like force yourself to get out of the sadness. It's definitely easier said than done. It's not something that you're just like, okay, well, Maria said to get out of sadness, so I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna be okay when I leave, and then I'm gonna find all this. Like, it's not like that, obviously, but it definitely helps you get out of it a whole lot more than sitting in bed and just thinking like, damn, I'm not with my boyfriend, I'm not with my partner. It's so hard. It's so hard. And if you stay in that mindset of just thinking how long it's gonna be and how sad you are that you're not gonna see them, it makes it 10 times harder to do long distance. Not only because there's only so much that your partner can tell you to make you feel better, but also there's only so much that you can do to make yourself feel better when you are feeling sad and thinking about it constantly. So really the point is being busy enough or distracted enough that you're not constantly thinking like, oh my God, I'm not with my boyfriend, or I'm not with my partner, like I just want to be with them, I'm so sad. Like, and it being like that, it genuinely puts a toll on your relationship even without you realizing. I also want to mention that there are going to be days that are a whole lot easier than other days. There are some days that are gonna feel like the most amazing days, and like your relationship is on top of the world, like you have the best relationship, like nothing could affect you guys. You guys are so happy, so in love. But there will be opposite days where you're both mad, or one of you's having the most terrible day and taking it out on your partner without meaning to. Like I was saying before he called me, there will be days that you're gonna take the anger out on your partner without meaning to, and you're just gonna be having a rough day. Not just you, maybe your partner's having a rough day, maybe they woke up not in the mood, maybe something happened, etc. And this is a point I touched on previously, and I don't remember which of the 3 points or 4 points. But my point is that you have to think about the positives more than you do the negatives, because it's gonna be a whole lot easier to obviously think of all the bad and like the days that you're both upset, or that one of you is more upset than the other and you're just not having a good day. And those days are gonna be a whole lot easier to think about than the good days. And it's because of that distance and that not being able to be together. And that alone affects so much of the relationship. So to conclude this lengthy video that I wanted to not be lengthy, really the basis of a long distance relationship are the same basis as a normal relationship with like an added step. So trust, communication, see each other when you can and if you can, and don't stay in a funk. Try to find something that will get you out of that feeling, and it's going to help you so much. It's not easy. They are difficult relationships to be in. They take a lot of work, a lot of work. But if you're both willing and able to get through it, then your relationship comes out so much stronger than it was in the beginning. It is miraculous the types of things that you are going to go through in your long distance relationship and get through together. So with that being said, if you are in a long distance relationship or getting into one, please know that it'll be worth it at the end once you finish whatever you have going on. If it's school, if it's work, whatever it might be, that's the reason that you're in a long distance relationship or about to be, that will one day come to an end, and you are going to get to be with your partner all the time, and you're gonna be the partners and relationships that you see out in the street and in movies and on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere, that are holding each other and hugging each other and kissing each other and, you know, all of that. And that will get to be you one day. But right now, even though it seems like it's so far away, you know, you have to go through this to get to that point of your relationship. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you guys in other sessions with Em. Make sure to let me know what you guys think of long distance, and if you are in a long distance relationship, let me know what helps you and your partner, you know, stay afloat the long distance lifestyle. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.